Let's begin assembling this movement here. Alright, so we can put our fusee in here. Let's see, put our, start putting our wheels in here. Center wheel. Well, that's going to be the chime. And this will be the strike over here. This one's the chime. This one's the strike. Which goes in the time train. This is our escape wheel. I did have to put several bushings in here, folks. I had, I forget how many now. I did this several days ago. I've got one, looks like two on the front here, and at least two on the back plate too. I know one of the bad ones was actually the other end of this fusee here in the time train was pretty badly worn, so that required a bushing. Now let's put our warning wheels in here. This looks like a chime. Remember, I have the little dots punched into the wheels. If you can see that or not, whether it'll focus. There's two dots there. This should go on the strike side. What else do we have to put in here? So it's been actually more than several days, really. It's actually been probably about a week since I've cleaned this and done the bushing work to it. So my memory isn't what it used to be, but I could put one of these together without even having taken it apart. You can give me a pile of parts and I would eventually figure it out. We may have to do a little bit of that with this today. Alright, let's see here. Now, one thing that has been asked in the past of me is, how do you deal with these fusees and putting these chains on? Well, there's a couple of different ways. You could put the chain on wrap it around the cone itself, and then hook it to the barrel. Thing is, you'll have to run the train all the way down. You'll have to wind the barrel with the train run down so that it winds off the cone and onto the barrel at a fully unwound state. And maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try it both ways. You can actually wrap, especially on the outside of fusees, it's more difficult to get to the ones on the inside. You can actually wrap the chain around the barrel once it's actually in and assembled here. Maybe we'll try that also. Let's see, this would be the chime, it looks like. That barrel's going to go there. And this one looks like it's the hour. It's going to go there. And this one would be for the time, and that's marked as such. That can sit there. And it looks like we have pretty much everything that goes in between the plates. Again, I might forget something. Oh, you know what? Let's see here. No, I can't think of anything else. There's no maintaining power on this. I'm looking through my parts here. Parts. And I don't see anything else. Now, How to clean these fusee chains. You can see I've already done that with this. Let's get this out of the way here. It's an empty bin we don't need. Now, I do not recommend you use a water-based solution to clean these fusee chains. The reason being is it's very difficult to get the moisture out of all these links, which can then foster rusting in the future. So what I used, just use a petroleum-based solvent, aka lighter fluid, and just soak it in that for a while. Maybe even take a brush to it if you're careful with it. I didn't. I just soaked it in lighter fluid for a bit, got the dirt out of it, and then let it dry. Lighter fluid will evaporate. And then I chose my heavy oil, the mainspring oil I use. Oh, the oil I use for the mainsprings, and just soaked it in that, and then took it out of that, and then just laid it on a paper towel to let some of the excess oil soak off, and then we're all ready to go. These are properly lubricated. Now these are marked. I scraped a little teeny mark. This one I can barely see a T on it. So how should we do this? I've done it several different ways, or actually 2 different ways in the past. Like I mentioned, we can wrap it around the fusee itself, or wrap it around the barrel. You can do it while it's assembled. I'm going to try doing this. I'm going to try putting it on the fusee itself to start with. And let's see, this is our hook. This is the barrel end. So we will find our hooking point here on the fusee, which is right here. Now you got to be careful of this chain. You do not want to kink it. You don't want to twist it in any direction it does not want to go. Turn it around a little bit that way. Okay, we can put this hook in here. It's like this. Again, I've done it both ways. I don't know if I like this way actually, but we'll give it a try. That's hooked in. But just run it along the fusee path here. Again, we want to avoid twisting the chain in some direction it does not want to go. This is kind of twisted up here, not twisted, but coiled up. I'd like to uncoil it. Again, this is a little awkward. Just go around the fusee with it. Here we are twisting it, like I said we shouldn't be. Try to keep within camera view. And hopefully this will stay on the fusee. I actually think putting it around the barrel probably would be better. But I've seen people do it both ways, so I thought I would try it this way. I, for the most part, have put it around the barrel in the past. I guess I shouldn't say that I do it both ways. I may have. I've done so many of these. I may have. I don't remember. Let's get this on there. Chain is nicely coated with oil. That's what you want. Trouble with putting it on the barrel, wrapping around the barrel, it doesn't want to stay on the barrel. You pretty much have to have the clock assembled and ready to put the chain on and ready to put power on it so that you can keep that chain taut and under power so it doesn't slip off the barrel. Alright, let's not put this chain under any undue stress here in the wrong direction. Keep it in one plane, so to speak. Don't want to twist it too much, or at all, really. And this does tend to stay on the fusee more so than it would on the barrel. The barrel has nothing to retain the chain. This at least has the slots to retain the chain. Alright, so that's on there. Now the barrel's going to hook that way. I can see the way it's oriented. Set this in there. I want to avoid touching too many parts because now my hands are full of oil. And as you can see, now it's hooked on. Now I'm going to go ahead and I may want to do that with all of them. Try it this way with all three of them. You try to avoid touching too much. Actually, I'm going to dry or wipe my plastic gloves off with all this excessive oil. You know what? I'm actually going to go forward this way, and we'll just put the chain on after the movement's assembled for the other two outer ones, because we should be able to get to those fairly easily. I'm going to change out my gloves since they are heavily coated with oil now from the chain. Some fresh gloves. We were down to our last two pair. Oh boy. To get new gloves. All right, let's drop this movement on here. Now this warning lever here, which I put back on, I believe it's going to go like that. So we need to sort of keep it in that orientation as we put the movement plate back on. Let's go ahead and drop this on here. Oops. Try it that way. Bottom ones in. Here we go. And this one I can tell is, there we go, it's in. There. Okay, and we'll just go around and see if we can get these pivots in there. So the movement drops down. Trying to assemble this. I want to lower the plates down. Alright. Let's see where we are here. That's in. There's actually not a hell of a lot of wheels to really slip in here. That's in. I think we're almost there. Okay, that was blocking things. Yeah, that's it. Sorry about the noise, but I think that's all the way in. Look over here. As you can see, our chain is still on there. All right, let's raise our chair back up. Let me make sure that this is, that you can see everything I'm doing there. It wouldn't zoom in too closely. See if I can find two more. Let's see here. No, I'll put the rusty one in. We'll swap it out later. Let's see, can I use that one? Yeah, I might be able to. Let's see. Yep. And I think I found another one. Let's get this one out here. Let's try that one, we'll see. Since the hole is a little lower on this, on these bottom arbors, so that's good. Yeah, that's sticking up okay. There we are. Alright, oils. Of course the fly, that's the pivot hole for the fly is up here, and they're not on yet. We'll put those on later on, maybe one of the last things we do before we start testing it. Alright, should be about everything oiled. I guess we should do the back also. Set it up here. You see that's the bushing I put in down here. This one there I put in. Make sure we have enough lubrication on all these. I want to put enough lubricant in there just so that it sort of fills up the oil sink but doesn't run out. There. Alright. This is a heavy movement. Well, let's see, our fuse chain became unhooked. We'll just get it back in there. Now at this point we could start putting power on this center and just run this train down, although I don't want to do that just yet because it may have to be some separation of the plates to read next wheels here, so we are getting ahead of ourselves when it comes to that. Now with these levers, I did polish these levers with the polishing wheel. Anything that I could saw that I could see there was a wear mark got polished, so there's no wear marks left on these, or at least minimal wear marks. Goes on there. We're just going to put these levers on and hopefully we'll get it right. That's going to be the... Okay. This is the quarter-hour rack here. You can see this pin engages this warning lever that's on the other side of the plate. That's why I was trying to get that in the proper position. It's like that. And we have the rack springs here. This one goes here. Let's go ahead and put those on before we do anything else. Should have one over here for the chime. Go ahead and take this off for now. I'm pretty sure we can't really put this on just yet, but I'm just going to set it here because we have to put this wheel on here. Looking to see if we have a mark. If not, we're just going to have to index this. Somebody has scratched one of the teeth there, and there was a mark here. This has to be indexed against the cannon pinion, or else it won't drop off the drop-off lever to start the chime directly on the hour. It'll be somewhere in between. So let's put a little bit of oil on this pivot here. And we'll line up those marks that I see somebody has scratched, and we'll take it from there and see if they're right. Okay, that's going to go there. Set that like that for now. We'll put this is the hour rack. Okay, that will probably have to take off because we got to put the bridge on. Oops, there's the bridge. One thing about working with these plastic gloves is, you know, you do that to keep the movement clean as you're assembling, keep your fingerprints off, but they tend to get in the way too. Now let's go ahead and we'll take these screws out. We got to put this bridge on. And notice there's like a little dot here. You can see that right there. Okay, there is a little punch mark here on the movement, so we're going to line those up. So we put this in the proper orientation that the manufacturer has designated way back in the, we'll say late 1800s for this clock. Now, it won't surprise me that I discover I have a lever that I didn't put on, that I'm going to take everything back off, so that could very well happen. Let's see, we have a rack hook here. It's going to go there. And we have the one for the hour strike, oops, there. Let's see here. This is the shut-off lever here. It's going to go up here, I do believe. Something along the line that probably goes like that, actually. Nope. It's going to go like that. I need to put that on right now. Set that aside. This is that shifts the barrel. That's probably going to go like there, or that's probably going to go like that. There, it's going to shift the barrel. The barrel's going to be right here. It's going to come in and out. So that can be left off for now. I think that's it. Right now that we have to put on. We have to put on the snail. This has to be put on in the right orientation too. And I'll show you how to do that. Let's take this off. Rack hook off momentarily. Now I want to see whether, look at the minute hand. We're going to see whether this is set up properly here. You can see how small actually these hands are. They're not very long, not very large for a clock of this size. So the dial is not terribly, well, as you saw, it's not terribly huge. The case is pretty big though. Now, let's set the movement upright. Again, we don't have anything holding this in, so we're just going to spin it carefully. I want to see. Oops. There. Done on the wrong side there. I think we're going to be pretty close with this. See where it drops off at. Alright, that's good. Okay, that's going to be the hour there. You can see that, how this will drop all the way down if I had the spring properly set on it. So that's going to be the hour chime. Let me get the spring on the other side of that. There. So let's put the hour rack on here. Get the spring properly set on that. I want to set this to, let's set it to 11 o'clock. We'll have it drop all the way on the 11. Maybe go another tooth. And we'll see. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get it so that it drops all the way down for 12 o'clock, but then on the next hour it comes around and drops on the top level here, which would indicate the 1 o'clock. I don't want it dropping somewhere in between, which will be problematic. Let's see what that looks like. I'll put the let's see, this one is the one. Okay. See which one is which here. I think this is the one. It's not marked, so let's see if it is. This is going to go here. Yeah, that drops right in there. Now I'm going to set the movement up like that. This movement is a workout. Because of the weight of it. Some bicep action going there. I just want to move these feet so the movement sits level. Alright, so that will be 11 o'clock. Let's bring it around. There, we had that in the wrong place. It's going to drop 2 teeth. For the quarter, not for the half past. It's going to drop 3 teeth for the quarter of, and it's going to drop 4 teeth for the hour, and then as you can see, the hour rack dropped all the way down to 12. Again, we have no pins on these levers as of yet. I will be putting pins on these. Just want to make sure that we don't have to take anything back off again. Okay, that looks like it was correct. So that dropped to 12. And we'll just go around an hour. Quarter of. Okay, this should be the 1 o'clock. All right, that's 1 o'clock. Rack keeps moving forward, but That's going to be good. I'll go ahead and batten down the hatches here, so to speak. And start putting pins on these. And here I have one of my helpers here, a ladybug. Tossing outside. The problem with those ladybugs around here, that and the box elders. Let's put this chain back on here. Okay, let's find some pins to put in here. Now we're gonna probably have to do some re-indexing here, but I'm gonna go ahead and put the pins in to hold these levers on. We should have the pins. The plethora of pins of the right size to hold these levers on. Okay. We'll just make sure these are tight. Cut the excess off here. I must have 10 pounds of steel laying on this floor, folks, in a form of taper pins, cut off taper pins. I do sweep the shop every so often, and there is a carpet here on the center of the shop. But I'm sure there's still a lot of taper pins down there. As I'm sure there's a lot I miss. Okay. Let's see, what do we want to do next? Go ahead and we'll drop these ratchets on here. For the fusees. Just going by these punch marks. 2, 1, and then 3 here. And then we have our ratchets. We have 3 here, 3 punch marks. That in there. I'll spend half the time looking for the proper taper pin. Let me cut this excess off. All right, let's look at this indexing here, see what we have to do. First of all, we're going to have to put the gathering pallets on there. That is a crucial part of the indexing. This is the strike one. I'll need to put the strike hammer on here. Looks like, see, this one we got wrong here. See, that's what I meant by having to take, this has to come off. It's on the wrong side of that warning lever that's inside the plate there. So we'll just slide this forward if we can. Yeah, I think we can. All right, there we go. That's correct. So I can put this pin back in here. By the way, I did polish these gathering pallets also. All right, so that's correct. Now I need to get this bit to a point where, let's move that up there so that now works. Now I just want that to drop off. And let's see. Yeah, it definitely is the strike. So that's going to go on like that. And you can see that's not correct. Now we have to get that hammer stop and put that on there. All right, let's do that. Boing, 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 boing. And let's see, we have this hammer. Put this on here. A little bit of grease on there. A little bit of grease on here doesn't hurt. And get this hammer spring situated properly. There we go. And that goes on. Like so. All right, let's see where we're at here. Find my gathering pallet again. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to re-index that. I don't like that. I want the hammer to drop off just as this gathering pallet rests against here, and it's really not what's happening. There, try that. See what we get. I'll explain what I'm doing here, folks, in a moment. Sure that's in, and we'll see. What we want to do is we want to get this hammer just dropping off as the movement comes to rest, where the strike train is rested. Move that up so that we can allow it to strike, and perfect. Notice how the hammer drops just as this locks here. So we just had to re-index the wheel that lifts the hammer down here in relation to the wheel that where the gathering pallet is. So we just moved it a couple of teeth. So we got that to drop. Now another issue we got to deal with is the warning wheel. Let's put this pin back in here, not the gathering pallet. The bottom pin does not need to stay out. We need to have this. Oh, bring this up here so you guys might be able to see it. I'm not sure whether you can. I'm going to move it closer to the camera. Okay, we have to get this pin, which you see right up here, so that it's just about across from this warning lever right here. This is the warning lever that raises up to stop the pin. If we have it down here near where the warning lever is, it could jam on that pin. So roughly about halfway across, usually right around the area of where the fly pivot is, which is right up here. So we need to re-index this wheel so that it's about halfway across from the warning lever. Let's make sure this is at rest here. Okay, that's at rest. And we'll separate this plate a little bit. Just enough to slip the pivot out of this warning wheel. Now maybe I should have made more of an effort to have this set up properly when I assembled it, but oftentimes, you know, you try, and once you get it all assembled, it usually gets off a little bit, so you almost always have to do this anyway. Okay, that should be all right. Probably have to do that on that side too. I got the warning, or the escape wheel has come out. All right, now we can close that. And that's about, maybe a little bit more. We're a little bit too far now. Separate it just like that. Bring it around to about there. And we'll put it back down. Put these back in. Escape wheel. Well, that got even worse. It's going to be right about there. That's good. I like that right there. And this one has a warning lever also, but we'll have to put the gathering pallet on for that. All right, we can actually, since everything is set up here on the strike side, we can put the pin in for the gathering pallet. I can find a nice thin one. Let's see here. That fits, but it's an awful big pin. Let me see if I can find a smaller taper pin. Pretty good. Okay, that's on and set up. Now, I think we had an issue with this one here, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. I think this gatherer was a little bit loose. We try putting it in different various places here. See if there's any place where it's actually tight. I actually like that. That's pretty good right there. The warning pin is, let me slide this bulky thing over here. Just about here, right across from where the warning lever is down here. So about half a revolution, half a turn till the pin engages is perfect. Now, I don't like the way this gatherer pallet is a little bit loose. Let's see if there's anything I can do about that. Outside of having to replace the gathering pallet, which is not what I want to do. Let's see here. Set this aside. Gonna get I have a staking set here, a watchmaker staking set that I don't really use for watches because I don't do watches, but can come in handy for stuff like this every once in a while. Let's see what we can do here. Now, if I got a pointy one, you want something like that, I just gave it a bit of a tap there. Tap on that side, maybe down here a little bit. We can give it a tap down here also. Now it's difficult to get it this way. I actually know of no way of doing that. Unless I just kind of hold it. No, I don't like doing it that way. Let's see if that made it any tighter. Sure did. Boy, it made it almost too tight. Now let's see what we can do here. Now let's put these pins in before we go any further. I want to forget that. See if whichever way this fits on better. All right, let's set it down. It's going to be super tight. Need a hollow punch here. That's on. I just don't like to leave any slop there in the gathering pallet, because that just tends to keep on opening up as the years go by and the movement operates. It just going to get looser and looser. Now let's see here. I actually changed it a little bit, so the pin is a little bit. You can see the difference now. What I thought was synced properly. Now, since I took up all the slop in that gathering pallet, the warning pin is a little farther over in this direction now. So I'm going to separate the plates and move it to just one or two teeth so that it's more directly across from that warning lever right there. But you can see how much of a difference that made, taking up that, removing that slop, the looseness in the gathering pallet. Separate this. Bring that around. Set it back in there. That's perfect. I'll show you when I have this back up again, standing back up. And you can see where the warning pin is, right there, almost directly across from the warning lever. So that's perfect. We just need to put a pin in that gathering pallet. That gathering pallet is nice and tight now. It's actually really tight, but you should be able to pop it off in the future if need be to service the clock. Not so tight that you can't get it back off. Let's find a pin to put in there. A very small pin. There's one right there. That'll work. A little bit big, but we'll cut it off. It's tight. And you can see how it works here. I'll turn the hands around, turn the hand around, I should say. This will be the quarter after, and we'll spin it this way. Of course, I have to take it slow because the fly's not in there yet. And that was one tooth. Let's bring the strike up here. It's going to drop two teeth. And again, we're going to spin around one, two. That would be the half past. Spin it around again. You got your three teeth. All right, and now we're going to come up to the hour. Notice how it lifts higher. This rack hook is contacting this rack hook now, which is what holds the hour rack. So that's going to release the hour rack, which it just did. Drops down. This pin inside here, which I was having trouble getting correctly synced with the warning lever in there, is actually dropped down, allowing the warning lever to swing up and then block this pin here for the warning on the strike. So it's not going to strike while the chime is even getting set up, the chime. And then now the chime is being released, so we can spin this around 1, 2, 3, and 4. But once this gets far enough away, it releases the warning and allows the power strike to strike. And there it is. Now let's get the chain situated here on this, since we don't have to take the movement apart at this point anymore, we know. Hopefully we don't. Keep our fingers crossed. We shouldn't need to. I'm going to make sure that pin is in there tight. I don't like the way that the hole is drilled a little further down than it ought to be on this standoff here, but you know, it's just a manufacturing issue. Can hook this on. We're going to put a little bit of tension on this time train now. It's going to start causing the train to spin. Set it up. And there goes our train starting to spin. I want to run this chain all the way down onto the barrel. We're not over speeding this too much. We're just taking it slow. Again, this is one way you can do it, folks. Got to get this chain all the way off the fusee and all the way onto the barrel. One of the advantages of this is the chain tracks properly on the barrel. Which, when you put the chain on the barrel itself, wind it onto the barrel itself, you then have to wind it onto the fusee. It doesn't always track properly. In other words, it doesn't always line up properly with the fusee. You can cross over slots on the fusee. So it's one of the disadvantages of putting it onto the barrel first. One of the disadvantages of doing it this way is you have to wind it all the way down the way I'm doing it, off the fusee onto the barrel, by just spinning it this way. Like I said, I don't know if there's any one true way of doing it. Doesn't harm the clock in any way to spin it this way. It's just a little bit faster. Let's see here. I do see like this. Seem like this chain is running a little off there. There.
A few minutes later.
Alright folks, the chain is all the way onto the barrel now. Now let's go ahead and we'll put on, I'm going to say 19, I'm going to count 19 teeth here. We'll try that. And we'll see if that's not too much, or if it's probably not going to be too little, but it might be a little bit too much. But let's, count 19, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You know what? 15. I think I want to go with 15. This is just as the tension we need to put on the fusee. We'll see if that's not too much. 19 might be too much, especially for the time side, which doesn't need a lot of reserve power. Now, if we find that it's too much, then I'll have to let maybe a couple teeth off here. But I want enough standby, reserve power on there. This fusee needs to be under tension the whole time. Now, we're going to put the chains on the other two. Okay. So now I have the chain here.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, that's on there. Let me switch out my gloves. As you can see, the chain is on the barrel, but it's not going to line up properly with the fusee. Again, folks, this is the other way to do it. How you do it is up to you. I guess it won't harm anything either way. I will say, when you do it this way, after you wind it up and let it run down, you may have to go in and retension it. Because what happens is the coils here, as you can see, are really loose compared to the coils that you see down here. There's a lot of tension on this part of the barrel here, but not so much as you travel further down the chain. You wind the clock up, let it run down. Now let's put some tension on this. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to tighten this down a little bit. Four, 5, 6, 7. Try to shift this chain around a little bit. Try to even out you can see how loose it is here. And how not loose it is down here. Let's try that. Before I go any further, since I'm now putting tension on these trains, I want to put the fly in. We don't want this spinning at a high speed here. So let's get that's going to be the chime fly there. It's got 3 dots on it. We're going to put that in here. Oops. Silly me, I took the wrong one off. Don't forget to put our lubrication on this. We'll put the fly on the other side too, the strike side. Some oil on that too. All right, let's let some of the tension down off this again. I want to see if I can get this chain a little bit placed a little more evenly here. There are wear marks on this barrel where the chain, you can see where the chain has been tracking. So that's helpful. And we can try to separate this chain and get it so that it's a little more evenly spaced here on the barrel. Alright, let's count our teeth again. We have, bring it over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I got with 15 teeth there. And I'll tighten up this, screw here. All right, now this cable's on. Let's go ahead and put our cable, the chain is on. Put the chain on this barrel here. Get this chain unlooped here. It's forming a loop. There we go. All right, let's see if we can hook it on here. Going to go on right there. Okay, that's on there. Oh, let's see here. Yep, we forgot to put the barrel in. Okay, so I'm going to have to... I don't know why I did that, folks. I was thinking some of these movements, especially the modern ones, the barrel goes on the outside of the movement. I should have known better. And I'm not working on a modern clock. So, I need to take this tension back down off this these fusees. Not a big deal. We can separate the plates and get this taken care of. It's just going to be a little more difficult because yeah. All right, we'll see what we can do. Alright folks, this is the finished movement. Let me turn it to face the camera here. As you saw, I did forget to install the pin barrel here as I was assembling the whole thing. It happening to me more and more often, I suppose. I forget things. Sure, it's not going to get any better as I get older. I guess I'm so used to working on the modern movements where you have the pin barrel and mounted on the back of the movement, and that doesn't need to be installed until later. Anyway, I had to disassemble the movement, take the plates apart again, and put the pin barrel in. Now I did have to sync this up here to get it so that the hammer drops off the pin and then the movement stops, because that's what you want to do. You don't want to have anything lifting if possible. Now the hammers do lift a little bit. There's no way that I can get around that adjustment. There is a small adjustment here on the wheel that attaches to the pin barrel that you can loosen the screw and then move the pin barrel a little bit, but it's at the best point that it can be right now. One of the hammers does have a little bit of a lift as it's stopped, but I've seen this before on these movements, and that's just the way it is. Now this has the two different chimes. You have your Whittington and you have your Westminster. You can shift the barrel just by moving this lever, and the barrel shifts in and out to engage the different pins. I did just let the clock tick overnight. I don't have the pendulum yet. That is been ordered. It's got to come from England, so it's going to be a couple more weeks before that gets here. But I let it tick overnight. You let it run through, let it chime. In the morning, this morning, it was still in sync. The chime was still in sync, and everything was perfect. So I know it's going to be, a good functioning clock and chiming properly once they get the pendulum on and we can begin testing it for real. I did have to figure out the length of the pendulum. Now, I had an idea what the length is on these type of clocks. I've worked on them before. There's a website, and I'll put a link down below. The National Association of Watch and Clock Collectors has a calculator online. If you count the pinion leaves in the center wheel and work your way up, count the pinion leaves and all the ensuing wheels, and the teeth on the escape wheel, there's a formula you can use to figure it out. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I'll just leave you the link. I mean, you can work it all out on paper or calculator, or you can just go to the website and plug in the numbers, and boom, it takes care of it in a second. Now, as I figured, this movement came out to be right around 10 inches to this pendulum, I should say, came out to about 10 inches at the center of oscillation. So and that's about what I figured about the length should be. So I ordered one from England. I believe there was the longest one was around 11 inches. So that should give us a center of oscillation pretty much right around 10 inches. Figure that's the total length of the pendulum. So that should be fine. So we're just going to sit and wait for that pendulum to come in. In the meantime, I can sort of demonstrate this for you. You can see that the hammer does lift. That would be the Whittington there. If I adjust the barrel any other way, then you get a hammer that's hung up and doesn't drop at the end of the sequence, which is definitely not what you want. Let's switch the barrel to Westminster. This will be 12 o'clock here. You can see let me turn it so it better faces the camera here. You can see they had the rack drop here for the hour. And you get your Westminster chime. Then your hour will start up here. Now this will stop just as the hammer drops for the hour, and that's what you want. That's proper sequencing. You don't want this, especially this hammer here, to be lifted while the train is stopped, because it's pretty long. And it may not be enough oomph in the movement to start the train up if this hammer is just hung up like that. I did have to lessen the tension on these springs. Well, I did have it set to 19 teeth, I believe I said, or it might have been 15 teeth. This, when I wound up the chime side, ended up the spring was too short, and it stopped before it could get to the end of the winding stop, I should say. And that's not what you want. You can actually break a chain if you try to force it, and you come to the end of the spring. So I had to back off on the tension. I think it was around 9 clicks or maybe 10 on these. I did the same thing with these. I think it was 10, 10, and 9 on these, and that still gives you enough tension to keep the train running through the very end of its run. The chain is actually the very end of its run, so that's fine. Anything less than that, I think if this spring had even been a little bit shorter, I would have had to replace it. But in this case, I chose not to. The springs are difficult to find in this size. They're fairly expensive. Not that that's would be an issue at all. But I deemed that this spring was going to work, and indeed it does work. Folks, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. Stay tuned for my channel. I'll have something else in the pipeline. Not sure what yet. Depends on what comes through the shop door. Okay, folks, that's going to do it. Take care now, folks, and we'll see you in the next video.